righty, welcome back to SportsLine here on NewsChannel 5 Plus. I'm John Burton. This, of course, is Don Davenport from 104.5 The Zone. And, of course, SEC and ESPN college football. It's been great having you here.
Yes,
I'm so glad we had a chance to do this.
This is the first time I've ever been in this studio.
Yeah, what do you think?
Seen it on TV.
This used to be our main studio.
Okay, this is the old one
now. Now we've got the Starship Enterprise across the way.
Now you have the fancy one,
Whoa,
right?
we got all the, the VMONs and the
whistles.
And the tot wall and all the technical terms that our viewers have no idea what I'm saying. All right.
I
SEC.
have no idea what he's saying, too.
Right. Tennessee Vols 0-2 for the first time since 1988. Yeah. Dawn, I was a freshman in college the last time the Vols were 0-2. Okay?
That was a long time ago.
I'm showing my age, okay?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
What is going on? Jeremy Pruitt, should he be on the hot seat? They got Chattanooga this week. You think they should get right playing UT Chattanooga, but you never know.
You thought they would have been right week one.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Lose to Georgia State and really blow a game last week to BYU. Give me your thoughts on the Vols. What do you see?
I want to hit the Jeremy Pruitt hot seat thing real quick, and then make sure I come back to what do I see with the Vols, because it's a surprise. It's a surprise to me so far. I mean, I didn't expect them to be, SEC champs or anything, but so far what I've seen out of them is a surprise. But let me hit the Jeremy Pruitt on the hot seat. This is a coach who is in year 2 of rebuilding a program, and it's not a typical rebuild like you have at Arkansas, where Coach Bielema was there for a long time and Chad Morris came in. It's not a you're coming in after a coach has been there for 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. You're coming in after you've just had a revolving door of coaches, from the Butch Jones to the Derek Dooley to the Lane Kiffin. This is revolving door. That affects recruiting.
Sure.
That affects your depth. You cannot win in the SEC if you don't recruit or can't recruit, and if you don't have depth. And that's where they are. This is year 2. It's going to take a while for Jeremy Pruitt to be able to get his kids in and to turn things around. Now, I'm not saying that Jeremy Pruitt is going to be a National Coach of the Year one day. I don't know that yet.
Right.
I'm not going to jump off that cliff or anything.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, in year 2, there should be no talk of Jeremy Pruitt being on the hot seat. You have to give him his time to get his kids in there, and you have to give him his time to change culture. And somebody yelled at me like, those are good kids there. Yes, there are good kids there, but when I talk about a culture change, what I mean is a work ethic, a learning how to practice, because sometimes you have to learn that when you get to college. I had to learn it in volleyball. I had to learn, this is like really practicing and really working hard in the weight room and time managing, getting your stuff done. And, this is the level that we practice here. I get that now. That's a different level than I had to deal with in high school.
Sure.
And I think that's something that was missing from the Tennessee program when I say culture change during Butch Jones' time there. The way they practice, the way they're expected to do things, there's no sweat Thursday now. You know what I mean? They don't have that at Tennessee now, but that was something that was in effect, a walkthrough on Thursday, which a lot of teams do now, and then do a real practice on Friday to get things going for game, but that doesn't exist anymore, So when I say change the culture, I'm not saying that there's bad kids there. I'm saying that you have to know.
It's a different mindset.
You have to know how to practice, and Jeremy Pruitt has that, because look where he's been, where they do it.
But you know how Vol fans are, Don. You deal with them every day on your show. They want everything now.
Vol calls is my favorite. Yes.
SEC East title now.
Yes.
Beat Alabama now.
I get it.
College football playoff now.
Patience
but you're
hard.
Teaching patience.
Now let's go to what's wrong with Tennessee.
Let's do it.
We all know we've had the offensive and defensive line conversations, and I just mentioned talking about depth. That's part of it. They look better this year. Don't you think than last year?
I do.
Who doesn't is Garantano now. Garantano. And that's where the surprise is to me. And that's where an issue is offensively. I watched that BYU game, and you watch him and he's not seeing the field like he was last year. I was so high on Tano. I was so high on him after last year because I worked that Auburn-Tennessee game. I saw him protect the football. I saw him where I worked 3 Tennessee games last year. I saw him running for his life every single Saturday and making good decisions to put his team in at least some kind of a position to stay in ball games and eventually win against Auburn on the Plains. That's not an easy place. Now his offensive line played well that game. That was an impressive win last year. Yeah. For sure. So, and I saw him against that Vanderbilt game when I felt like there were quite a few players that weren't giving it their all on the field during that game for the entire game, and Garantano was one that was. Leadership, I saw all of that from him last year, so I was high on him. And even Jeremy Pruitt telling us at the end of the year, which he didn't go this way at the beginning of the year when we worked, because we worked week 2, and then we worked Auburn, Tennessee, our crew did, and then we worked Vanderbilt. So I kind of got the progression last year of beginning of the season, middle of the season, end of the season. And by the end of the season, Jeremy Pruitt saying, hey, we can win with this guy at quarterback. Like, he believed in him big time at the end of last season, and it's perplexing to see his lack of vision on the field, his decision making, his hesitation to get rid of the football. I'm shocked in what I've seen from him so far, and maybe part of that is getting used to a new Chaney offense and learning it, and maybe part of it is trusting his players that he does have around him. Maybe he's not quite there yet and he's thinking too much, and maybe that's slowing him down, but he's got to get rid of the ball. He's got to make better decisions. He's got to see the whole field. I feel like on a lot of plays that I went back and watched from that game that he's only looking at one side of the field. He's not seeing, everything that's out there, and it's very odd because I felt like that was not his game last year.
Vanderbilt is 0-2. They've had a tough start to their season, losing.
That's not an easy schedule now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they got to start with Georgia.
Brutal.
And then a winnable game, I thought, last week at Purdue. And
I thought so too.
I waited for them to get going, especially offensively, and the defense hung in there, it seemed, for as long as they could, but they gave up way too many big plays. We were talking off air. That game really just ticked me off. That game frustrated the heck out of me.
That made you run red?
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, my engine was running hot watching that game. Give me your thoughts on Vandy. Obviously a new quarterback. Some great weapons on the offense.
Great weapons, like some of the best in the entire SEC,
which makes you some of the best in the country.
Yeah.
Where are you at with Vanderbilt?
I have been on record as saying that Vanderbilt is going to surprise a lot of people this year. They are not helping me deal with that right now, and I didn't expect them to be in a place, obviously, early in the season with their schedule. Start with Georgia. I expected them to beat Purdue.
Yeah, me too.
And then, they have LSU. That's a tough one. I expected it to be a rough start, but Derek Mason never loses his team, and I felt good about what they're going to do all season until I watched that first game, and I get that it's Georgia, but from an offensive line standpoint, that was the big question coming in, because they had a veteran offensive line last year with nothing but juniors and seniors coming back on that line, a new quarterback, obviously, but offensive line-wise, they were hit with some injuries, and I think that has just put them in a position where they just have not been able to click offensively, and that's a big part of it. But even working spring game for SEC Network and being out there and watching the quarterbacks, and we didn't get to see Deuce in the spring game because he ended up with an injury and didn't play in the spring game, but I had been at practice the entire spring practice, the 2 weeks before that, and saw what he did. And so I felt with him and Riley Neal, they'd be fine at quarterback, that wouldn't be an issue. But I think with their offensive line play, it's just a battle. I mean, it is a battle, and it's unfortunately only going to get worse when you hop into the conference. And they're young guys, and hopefully they'll get better on that line. But I mean, you've got a lot of inexperience there, and a new quarterback that at least Deuce is familiar with the system, but Riley Neal with a new system, and I think that's just a recipe for disaster for Vanderbilt right now. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought they would be better this year, but they're young.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's something too. By the middle of the season, maybe we're talking about a better Vanderbilt team, right?
Sure. Real quick before we go to break, is it still Alabama, Georgia you expect to see in December, or could an LSU, could a Florida maybe sneak up on one of these teams?
I have LSU.
Do you?
Yeah, I really do.
Coach O.
After watching what's up with that offense? What's up with that offense?
That was, I couldn't believe what I was watching. That was the LSU Tigers on the road putting up big plays offensively.
In that last drive, that was
at Texas. I mean, that was amazing.
Pass, run, pass, bomb, touchdown. I'm like, who are you? Who is this purple and yellow team?
You know who else was saying that, watching that? Les Miles.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So, yeah, I say watch out for LSU after that game. After seeing the confidence they have, what Joe Burrow can do offensively, they're going to be good defensively. I say watch out for LSU.
In the East, you still have Georgia, or could a Florida or somebody else maybe sneak up?
I still have Georgia at this point. And I feel like we just haven't seen enough yet, because you watch that opening game for Florida. What did we really learn there? It was so sloppy. That was sloppy, and
we looked past it because it was an actual game that counted. But it was not a well-played game.
It was like Bears Packers. You're like, wow, there's a lot of rust on this field right now. And in Florida, another one, offensive line. You're really concerned about what that offensive line is going to be able to do, because there's a lot of young guys there. I remember watching in the spring game, because I worked that one too, and I remember watching them like tripping over each other. And it did not look good, but I figured, okay, they're all young guys. They had some injuries during spring, so you didn't get to see a lot of their offensive line, but that's another big question mark. At least you have an experienced quarterback who comes in with a lot of confidence, in Felipe Franks there, but I'm not ready to crown them, so we'll see.
All right.
We'll learn a lot, not this weekend, because there's not a ton of great games this weekend, but we'll learn a lot next weekend, right?
And for now, we'll continue our conversation with the great Don Davenport right here on SportsLine. Stay with us.